Now, you could be forgiven for thinking this popular little snack was invented in Mexico, but you'd be wrong. Tortillas were invented in Los Angeles in the 1940s, but only made their way to the UK quite recently. Unlike ordinary crisps made from potatoes, tortilla's basic ingredient is maize flour. At this factory, enormous 900-kilo bags of it are fed into a mixing machine to be combined with all the other ingredients. These include sugar, salt and starch. They'll spend a couple of hours in this giant mixer being kneaded into a thick dough like this. However, the mixture isn't ready to be turned into the familiar triangular shape just yet. Big lumps of dough won't make crispy thin tortilla chips, so first the dough needs to be reduced. It's all passed through a series of circular blades like these, which break it into smaller pieces. This will prepare it for the rollers. To ensure an even mixture, the dough is divided up into compartments. This helps to get a uniform quantity passing along at all times. You never get a fat tortilla chip in a bag because the dough was spread out like this. The dough is now rolled out into an enormous flat sheet. The sheet passes underneath a cylindrical cutter, and this is where that famous triangular shape appears. Like a cookie cutter, the hard edges of the roller slice through the dough, leaving the perfect triangular piece. The tortilla chip is beginning to take form. Even though this process looks really well organized, there's always a little dough left over. But it's not wasted, it's sent straight back through the dough vat to start all over again. Once the chips have been pressed out, they're separated from each other and sent on to the ovens. But there's one small step first. Remember we couldn't have chips that were too fat? Well, this guy makes sure the chips aren't too thin. Too fat and they wouldn't cook properly, too thin and they'll crumble to dust in the bag. It's a tough job, but it has to be done to get that perfect tortilla crunch. So we've got the chips into the oven, but they don't spend very long in here. This trip under the grills crisps them up and gives them their traditional color. It also means they don't need to spend so long in the fryer. Emerging from the oven, the chips are allowed 5 minutes to cool down. This little break also gives the inspectors time to check that none have been burnt. Burnt tortillas really don't go well with a good salsa. Now it's time for the chips to be fried. They'll spend just 1 minute in a bath of boiling oil at 175 degrees Celsius. Just enough to cook them and for the heat to curl the crisps ever so slightly. Now, if your mouth is now watering and you'd love to grab a handful, think again. At this point they may look like tortillas, but they have no flavor at all. With popular flavors such as salt and vinegar, cheese and onion and ready salsa dominating the crisp market, tortilla chip manufacturers have experimented with a variety of alternatives. One was called clamato, a unique combination of clam and tomato. Getting the flavor onto the chips isn't just a case of chucking it in and shaking the bag. To get a good coating onto each chip, first they're covered in oil again. As this demonstration shows, without oil, all the flavor will just slide off. Enormous sacks of the mixture are added to the top of the machine. Everything from spicy chili to salt and vinegar, and even the famous, if slightly unusual, clamato. The powder filters down through the pipes and into the machine where the oil-covered chips are being continuously rotated. Here a device will scatter the flavoring throughout the drum, liberally coating the chips as they spin around. Britons eat around 38,000 tons of tortillas a year, enough to fill up an amazing 193,172 bathtubs. That's a lot of chips. However, before you can rip the bag open and offer them around at your dinner party, first they've got to be put into the bag. This machine weighs up the chips, then following a precise timing system, each portion is released just at the right moment to fall into a waiting bag. So, as you dunk a handful of tortillas into a tasty salsa, spare a thought for the guy who made sure your chips had the perfect measurements just for you.